Well, shalom, everyone, and welcome to the Middle East and Beyond. I'm Barry Stagner, coming to you from finally sunny Southern California, and joined, as always, with me is my friend and brother, Amir Tsarfati, coming to us from the Galilee. Shalom, Amir.
Shalom, Pastor Barry. Hey, listen, in the month of May, if it's cloudy and rainy, you should say thank you, because every drop counts.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, we're back up into the low 80s and blue skies and sunshine and all that, what California is famous for. So now if we can just get rid of our governor, we'll be in great shape.
Well, I can surely understand that.
Yeah, I bet you can. So, Amir, we've got a great day together today, I think, looking at some of the things that are happening in our world today. And of course, Iran and Israel are going to make the news. And, you know, one of the things I think that we often need to remind the viewer of is how important it is that we recognize that Israel, as a country, as a people group, need to take center stage in order for the 70th week of Daniel to come about. And we've been watching that as Israel is rapidly, and especially recent years, become a burdensome stone to all peoples. And of course, the Iranian issue and all the other things associated with that, I think are important for us to understand. This isn't just news. This is prophecy making the news. So
exactly.
The ultimatum that's been given by the U.S. president and the response by the Iranians is, I'm sorry, but it's almost comical. Talk about two opposites trying to come to an agreement. And maybe you can bring us up to speed on exactly what the two groups have proposed that kind of make this nothing but a dog and pony show.
Yeah, first of all, I want to agree with you that the whole purpose of this program is not just to talk about news, but it's to explain the biblical significance of the events that are happening around the world. This is not your newscast. This is all about connecting the dots and making sure people understand why world events and the Bible actually goes together, and it's not like two separate universes that never meet. It's actually an amazing daily life for us, and I'm sure that for everybody else in this region. And yes, as you said, President Trump I think it was yesterday, said that he's expecting the Iranians to agree to his terms. They've got only until this weekend. So he said Friday, Saturday, max Sunday. That's what he said. It's funny because this is not the first ultimatum he's giving them. And this is not the first rodeo for the Iranians. But the common thread is every time there were negotiations and every time they said no to the terms, it ended up with another strike. So let me guess, just a wild guess, that we're up for another round in the next 48 hours. Now, let me take you to, although in recent minutes, literally, just as we started, the Saudi channels are reporting that an agreement between the U.S. and Iran is almost certain, and that Pakistan's military chief will travel to Tehran to tie up loose ends and announce the completion. All of that is smokescreen to something that is about to happen, either an Iranian preemptive strike or a very massive blow that America and Israel will rain from the air on the Iranians and their infrastructures. Now, take a look at this. The U.S. demands from Iran, and we'll put it on the screen so you understand, zero compensations or damage paid to Tehran. In other words, this war is because of you. We're not going to pay for compensation. As far as the uranium, Iran must transfer all the 400 plus kilogram of uranium to the United States, not to Russia, not to Pakistan, not to China, to the United States. Everybody knows that if it's going to be to one of the others, it's not exactly going to happen. When it comes to the nuclear facilities, only one nuclear facility permitted to remain active, and only for maybe 3.5% enrichment, and it will be supervised. And if you ask me, it's a huge mistake, because if you allow them any form of enrichment, they will always abuse it. And then, of course, no release of frozen Iranian financial assets, because everybody wants to see if this is actually being implemented. And the last one is there's no guarantee. We're not going to sign any guarantee that we're not going back to war. If we see that something is being done not in accordance with the agreement, we are coming back to war. So this is what the U.S. Are demanding. And look at the Iranians' demands. The Iranians are saying, actually, we're not even going to negotiate before you halt all hostile or hostilities on all fronts, with the emphasis on Lebanon, because they see how Hezbollah is bleeding. Full termination of all unilateral sanctions and UN Security Council resolutions. In other words, lift all the sanctions so they can do business with the rest of the world. Assets released, immediate unfreezing of all Iranian assets, hundreds of billions that are in bank accounts across Europe, America, and Dubai. And war reparations. Full financial compensation for war damages. In other words, now that's not enough. Look, there's more. Formal recognition of Iran's right to enrich uranium. Complete withdrawal of U.S. forces from nations neighboring Iran. In other words, from the UAE and from Qatar and other places. And recognition of Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, and an end to the naval blockade. You please laugh.
They're real close.
I want to hear you laughing because look at this. They agree on nothing, not even one point of agreement between the two parties. So for me, whenever I read for the 50th time that an agreement is imminent, we're about to reach an agreement, we're about to tie the loose ends, we're about to announce tomorrow, I know it's a smokescreen, because there is no way any agreement can be reached unless one of the parties capitulates. Because look at the difference between the two. And from everything I hear from President Trump in the last hours and days, he has not backed out or backed down from any of his demands. In fact, he also says, I have time. In about an hour ago, he said, everybody talks about midterms and that I'm stressed with time. I'm not stressed in time at all. I'm not worried. I've got time. And that drives the Iranian crazy, because they are banking on Trump's eagerness to reach a deal, because he's losing support at home. He's losing, he might lose the midterms, all of that. And he's basically telling them, guys, you don't understand. It's way more important for me to show a victory to my constituents, to my voters, than to end the war prematurely. So, if that's not enough, by the way, I want you to see how the opening point of this pending war is much better than before. You have to understand. Take a look at what was there before June of 2025. Before June, before Rising Lion, the estimated ballistic missiles of Iran was 3,000, and the estimated launchers were 480, almost 500 launchers. And that's why they could launch simultaneously 500 missiles, simultaneously. Then came the war in June of 2025, and the ballistic missiles fired at Israel were about 500 to 600, which means deduct that from what they had. And 50 to 70% of the launches were destroyed. Okay, but then from June all the way to February, Iran rebuilt its arsenal back to around 2,500 missiles and back to around 250 launchers. And this is how we started the February war. And the February war, Iran, again, 2,300 fired, and this about 200 to 250 launches were either destroyed or deactivated. Now, why am I saying all of that? Because now, if we're about to strike again, they start from less than 1,000 rockets and less than 200 launchers. And if you ask me, it's more closer to 100 launchers. So the capability of launching and the number of rockets that they still have is so much lower that it's going to be much easier to deal with them. Now, there's two options, because everybody understands it's no longer the ballistic missiles, because they're almost gone. It's all about the uranium. It's all about the whole idea of nuclear facilities and nuclear enriched uranium. And so President Trump has two options: either to declare the Isfahan area where we believe the enriched uranium is, either to declare that as an exclusion zone and to not allow any person to reach that place, and it's a kill zone basically. Anyone that reach it will be killed. And the other option is to finally not wait for the Iranians to give it, because they'll never hand it over. Go send secret, commando units. Go in. We know it's not deep. We know exactly where it is. We know exactly in what containers they're being held, and extract the enriched uranium out of Iran. I can tell you I'll call it this way. Okay, so I'm not going to be accused for giving you secret information. Publications, both Israeli and foreign publications, suggest that American and Israeli special units are already training on how to extract it. So, again, if anything, the Iranians are going to have two options. You give it at the end of a strike, or we take it. But this war cannot end with that enriched uranium still in Iranian hands. That's for sure. And for the Iranians, you know what they say? Hey, first of all, let's end the war, open the Strait of Hormuz, and then talk about the nuclear. And Trump is saying, sorry, the whole war is about the nuclear. So why would they end the war, open the strait, and then sit and talk? Let's finish that, and then the war will end, and then we'll open the strait, because they're losing $300 to $400 million a day. Another thing you want to know is the Iranians are smart enough not to only ask sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz and make money from every ship, but now they're saying, wait a minute, under the sea, there are internet cables. We want protection fee. We want protection fee. These are thugs. These are bullies. Look, now they want protection fee. And they are not only that they can cut those cables, but they're saying, if you don't pay us protection fee, actually, we will not even allow those companies to repair or to maintain those cables. And those cables serve the whole world. And it will affect banking systems. It will affect internet for communication and business. It will affect the world. So all I'm trying to say is that the Iranians must learn the hard way. And the only way they can learn is either by a big blow, or that the blockade will continue and they eventually will collapse. Now, you and I know that they nurtured and built proxies for many years, and in mid-April, the head of the Al-Quds force of the IRGC, Ismail Qaani, flew all the way from Iran to Baghdad, to Iraq, and he met with all the leaders of the pro-Iranian militias, the Hashd al-Sha'bi, the popular congregation, basically. And basically what he did, he said, guys, if we cannot send those drones, you guys do it. And so they did. This last Sunday, May 17, 6 drones were on their way to the UAE. One of them hit the Al-Baraka nuclear power plant, and 3 drones headed all the way to energy infrastructures in Saudi Arabia, and they were intercepted. All I'm trying to say is Iran is not only smart enough to try to make money from ships or from underwater, but they also use their proxies to do the dirty job of sending drones and rockets, so they can say, look, we didn't do it. It's not us. That's what they've been doing for many years. So again, they're still doing the same dirty thing. So this is why the war cannot end without getting the enriched uranium out, without ending their long-range ballistic missile program, and without ending the whole proxy thing. Because the proxy thing is what gives them a chance to always terrorize the world without saying that it's them. They had the audacity to start already the PGSA, which is the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. That's it. They are now the authority. It's now having an X account, and that is how ships from now on can go through the Strait of Hormuz. Look, they are so defiant. They are so sure that the power is in their hand. And that's why there is no other alternative but to go back and for a short time give them a very big blow and then get them back to the table and say, okay, I think you've learned your lesson, sign the deal, and that's it. So,
yeah, Amir, it's interesting in that, we don't know all the steps along the way, but what we do know is two things. One, the only way for there to be a lasting peace in the Middle East is to eliminate the Iranian regime, those who are persecuting and oppressing their own people. But secondly, we also know that that's unlikely because Iran is going to invade the nation of Israel. And, Reza Pahlavi, I don't see him turning. He's made already verbal commitments to befriend Israel and establish relations again. So, prophetically speaking, we do know where this is not going. It's not going to a place where Iran becomes the friends of Israel.
It breaks my heart, Pastor Barry. It breaks my heart because a lot of good Persians, good Iranians, they really suffer. And help is not on the way for them because even if a deal is going to be reached, and eventually it has to, it's not a regime change. And this wounded animal of the IRGC will always even be more brutal with his own and seek the proper time to avenge. And that's going to be the Ezekiel War, I believe.
Amir, there's a significant Iranian population here in Southern California. And as we mentioned in time past, we have an Iranian ministry at the church taught by an Iranian pastor. And when you came and taught Coming Soon at the church, they shut down their study and came in to listen. And I remember distinctly that there was a pretty significant group, a small group, but in representative of the overall ministry, a lot of people came by the door, and several of these Iranians that I've not even met as of yet hugged me and said, thank you for bringing Amir, and we learned so much. So, I think it's important for us to remember, as you pointed out, the Iranian people are not the same as the Iranian regime.
Exactly.
They're pretty much like the rest of us. They want to earn a living, raise a family, send their kids to school, and those types of things. And Amir, moving forward, there's been a bit of a shift in the focus that's happening now in the Gaza. There's been another major elimination, and maybe you can bring us up to speed on that.
Yeah. So, as you know, Israel vowed to eliminate every single person who was part of the leadership that executed the October 7th massacre. Every single one of them. And in Gaza, there was only one that was left alive from the leaders who plotted this. His name was Ezzadin el-Haddad. And you can see that's his, ID. He was the head of Hamas's military wing and one of the architects of the October 7th massacre. And a few days ago, Israel had the exact information of where he's hiding. And we took care of business. Him and his wife, by the way, was trained by him to shoot and throw hand grenades. We have all the videos. This is him, by the way, in the center. Actually, no, but sorry, what I'm trying to show here on this one is that the person on the right is the person that is now replacing him. Because all the other people that you see in that picture have been already eliminated. So, listen to me, we are going to hunt them one by one. And I will also tell you that all of the Hamas leaders abroad will be eliminated. All of them. One by one. We will not leave a single perpetrator alive. Now, it's between them and God whether they repent and go to heaven one day. We are going to arrange the meeting between them and God. And whatever they close between them, that's up to them. But we will not leave them alive. I'm not saying that with patronizing tone. I'm not saying that with, boastful. I'm saying that with eyes that were open after October 7th. These animals, actually, they're not animals. Animals are much better. These demons are committed to do it again. It's not like any of the Hamas leaders already said, okay, we made a mistake, we will never do it again. All of them are saying that they will do it again. These people, now, after October 7th, we believe them now. We did not believe them before. We never really took them seriously. We looked down at them. We underestimated their power. Not anymore. After October 7th, I don't want to be a nice guy. I don't want to be loved. I don't want to be appreciated. I don't want to be admired. I don't care. I want to live. That's all I want. And if there is someone that is rising up to kill me, I will take care of business. And they are committed to raise another generation that will commit another massacre. So everyone, look, Romans 13 says that it's the government's duty to use the sword to fight evil. It's the government's duty. So any Christian that says, oh, you have to love your enemy, go ahead, love your enemy, that's fine. But pray that your government will use the sword to execute judgment on the evildoers. That's biblical, that's New Testament, and that's for you and for me and for everyone. So I'm just saying, as Adin al-Haddad is no longer with us, his replacement, Mohammed Odeh, will be the next to be eliminated. We're already gathering the information, and he will be eliminated. Now, Pastor Barry, just so you know, last week we talked about Gaza. And I told you that most of them want to leave. Little did I know that a day and a half later, a survey will be presented to the Israeli government that 80% of the Gaza residents wants to immigrate from Gaza. 80%. That's a staggering number. And that tells you that they know things are not going to get better there as long as Hamas is there. They know that nothing will be ever fixed, rebuilt, rehabilitated as long as Hamas is there. And they also know that Hamas will never disarm. So they want to leave. And if I were them, I would leave also. If you really want good life, you have to stop plotting against us. You have to stop wanting to kill us. We didn't have a problem living next to you, but we're not going to let you live instead of us. And so